drop something in like this.
How are you?
Yeah, it messes up yours.
Well, I don't know what. Ready or not. Okay. The time is approximately 6:02 p.m. The June 22nd, 2023 Farragut Board Mayor and Alderman meeting will now come to order. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen in attendance and online. I want to thank you for your presence at tonight's Board Mayor and Alderman meeting. My name is Ron Williams, the fourth elected mayor, town of Farragut. We appreciate that each of you has taken time from your busy schedules to either attend or view tonight's meeting to see how our town government works. All Farragut Board, Mayor, and Alderman meetings are public notice per Tennessee state law. Our meetings can be seen live on Charter Channel 193 or TDS Channel 3, as well as on the Farragut YouTube channel and our website. All board meetings are recorded and can be viewed at a later date on the mentioned locations. If you are in attendance, you should be able to pick up a copy of tonight's agenda at the door when you come in. If you are not able to attend tonight and are viewing from home, then the agenda is available online at our website. For those in attendance that would like to speak, please pick up a blue card at the door and write your name and agenda number that you wish to comment on. There will be also time reserved to enter the meeting for residents' comments on non-agenda subjects, which will also require that you fill out a blue card with the resident comments as your time you wish to speak. On each agenda item, the mayor will ask the town recorder for the residents' input. During this time, any Farragut resident wishing to speak to the board on that specific agenda item may do so for up to 5 minutes. After being recognized by the mayor, please go to the podium microphone in order to be heard and viewed by all. To conduct efficient business-like meetings, the town has adopted rules for how its meetings will be conducted. Primarily, these rules are designed to keep the meeting moving, to assure that all points of view are heard and considered, and to provide common courtesy to everyone. We ask that you observe the established meeting rules when addressing the board. At the beginning of our presentation, please state your name and address for the record. We ask that you address all of your questions to the mayor, or in his absence, the vice mayor. Do not direct questions of the alderman or the staff members. If necessary, the mayor may call on an alderman or staff member concerning your question or comments. Once you have given your input, please return to your seat so we can continue. We ask that every speaker avoid the use of improper language, profanity, or other inappropriate conduct and address issues, not individuals or personalities, with malicious comments. Speakers should strive to avoid redundancy and should have their own original viewpoints. We ask that you also stay on topic of that agenda item. We're here tonight doing the people's business. It's a very important responsibility for all of us. Okay, we'll start tonight's meeting with a roll call by our town recorder for a quorum prior to standing for silent prayer, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to our country's flag, which will be led tonight by Alderman David White. Yes.
All right, Alderman Burnett and Alderman Meyer absent. Vice Mayor Poplin. Here. Alderman White.
Here.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams here.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Alderman White. Okay. Any agenda amendments?
Yes, sir. We would like to, staff asked that we delete item 6A, which is
6A.
approval of agreement between the town and Smithfield Homeowners Association from the agenda tonight.
Okay,
And that's
thank
the
you.
only change.
Move to approve the amended agenda.
second.
Okay. All in favor of approval, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Let the record show that the June 22nd, 2023 amended agenda has been approved. Okay, next will be approval of minutes. Any amendments to the minutes?
No, sir.
None?
Move to approve.
Second.
If in favor of approval, please say yes.
Yes.
Any noes? Okay, let the record show the June 8th, 2023 minutes have been approved as posted. Mayor's report. I want to start tonight by reminding everyone of our up-and-coming July 4th events. The morning will start with the Farragut Freedom Run by Fleet Feet, followed by the 35th Annual 4th of July Parade. We are honored to have our own Tennessee Football Coaches Hall of Fame Farragut High School coach Eddie Courtney as the Grand Marshal of this year's parade. Okay, next will be the Farragut Committee annual reports. This will be a two-part series. Our chairs will give the reports. Our first four will be tonight, and then we'll have a second four on the July 27th meeting. And we'll start out with the Farragut Municipal Planning Commission.
Rita Holiday, 12624 Broken Saddle Road, Farragut. We've had and former chairman of the Planning Commission, I retired last week, but we have had a busy year, a lot busier when I see it here than I realized. We had 5 final plats that we reviewed. Meta at McPhee, Phase 2, Grove at Boyd Station, Phase 1 and 2, Kinney subdivision off of Union Road, and Ivy Farms, Phase 2 and 3. These are subdivisions involving a total of 246 house lots. Had no idea when you add it all together that we were going to come up with 246 lots that we had approved. Item number 2 is a concept and site plan for 47 townhouses at Biddle Farms. Item number 3, discussion, a concept plan for neighborhood convenience commercial development along North Watt Road near the town limits. And the neighborhood convenient commercial is a new idea that was approved not too long ago for the town of Farragut. It's housing and commercial in a close proximity. A concept plan for the rural large lot subdivision at the southwest corner of Evans Road and Virtue Road. Again, this is a somewhat newer concept plan for the town of Farragut. Item number 5, 7 notable site plans involving Chase Bank, Current Water Sports, the Grove at Boyd Station, Amenity Center, Gordon Medical Office, Gymnasium addition to the Concord Baptist Church, Building 3 at Little Turkey Creek Commons, Knoxville Temple, and currently reviewing a site plan for a major development at the northwest intersection of North Watt Road at Kingston Pike. This was just on our agenda last week, and it's a brand new development there that will be on the corner. Major utility projects that we had 8 new small cell poles that we approved. Transmission lines were upgraded to a substation for LCUB, and numerous fiber installation projects. We have had a lot of traffic. You probably noticed through Farragut that at times were backups because of installation that was going on that blocked the roads. But when all of that gets done, all of that will be a lot better. A site plan for a new macro cell tower to improve the cell service around the high school, or the schools, not just the high school. And this tower will be on commercial property there at West End. So it's nothing that's going to be close to any residential, but the schools were in need of better service. Text amendments involving ball field lighting and updates to the sign ordinance were studied and approved this past year. We did a lot of research into these two situations with ball field lighting and with the sign ordinance, and that was a major time and betterment, we think, for everybody. Amendments to the future land use plan, a map in the comprehensive land use plan for Boring Road, Smith Road, Kingston Pike study area, and updates to the overall Farragut municipal plan has come to have the land match the development densities. A lot of times things will change, and either the comprehensive land use plan or the zoning do not match, and so periodically we go back and put those together to where it coordinates. For the upcoming fiscal year, we have some areas that we want to concentrate on. To provide input and assistance to the consultants, the town has hired to update the comprehensive land use plan and to develop a vision plan with the recommendations for the mixed-use town center area. While ongoing changes are updated, it's also about every 10 years that a major look at these and these ideas is reviewed, and usually with the help of a consultant that has experience with this type of project. Item number 2 that we want to look at is review and provide input on major projects involving the remainder of the Biddle Farm development and the development of both the South Watt Road and North Watt Road and Kingston Pike developments, as well as the southwest portion of the town in general, and Outlet Drive. Outlet Drive has had some issues that will be reviewed next year, or it will be items instead of issues, I guess, that will be reviewed next year. And assist the staff in making updates to the subdivision regulations and amendments to the zoning ordinance. And this is something that, again, is a continuous project that the Planning Commission takes responsibility for, working with the staff on. And it's been a busy year, and I'm sure my 5 minutes I'll be beeped here to sit down. But and I know that from experience. But I want to thank everybody with the town staff. As they mostly know, I retired last year to spend more time with my family and go to more baseball, soccer, cross-country and track, and whatever else the kids are doing, and help get them there. So I appreciate the help over the years that first Ruth Hawk and now Mark and Bart have provided. I've learned a lot about planning. I worked in municipal government, but it was not in the planning area, and so when Eddie Ford appointed me, I had a lot to learn about planning, and those 3 people certainly were great to learn from. And I appreciate all their help, and I will miss them and the rest of the town staff that I've worked with. So thank you, and it's going to be a good year ahead.
Thanks, Rita.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you, Rita. Next will be Parks and Athletics Council.
Good evening. Jeff Julian, 12529 High Forest Lane. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Julian. I'm the chair of the Parks and Athletics Council for the town of Farragut. I wanted to give you an annual update of our activities on the council for the past fiscal year. Goal 1, I think we had some slides. Just little visuals, nothing major. Maybe not. That's okay. Okay. So the Parks and Athletics Council had 5 goals for the year, and so this is kind of synced up with those goals. We accomplished all of them. Goal 1 was to serve as the jury for discrepancies during field allocation, and we successfully held 2 field allocation meetings. Town staff have really smoothed out this process, so that we haven't really had many contentious field allocations lately, so that's been great. Goal 2 is to make recommendations and select the 2023 Independence Day Grand Marshal. As Mayor Williams mentioned, the selection was Eddie Courtney. Goal 3 was to make recommendations based on staff research regarding park amenities and outdoor rental fees. We made a number of different recommendations, including changes to the regulations, hours, and fees for the courts at McPhee Park, including pickleball, tennis, and basketball. We changed made recommendations to change allocation for tennis courts at McPhee Park. Made recommendations to change natural turf tournament fees, Great Pavilion rental fees, and we approved new fees for the Great Lawn rentals. Goal 4 was to participate in Freaky Friday Fright Night, and we had 4 representatives that from the council that attended that event and helped hand out candy with other Town of Farragut committees. Goal 5 was to kick off Light the Park during the holiday season, and our council had several members involved with that event as well, handed out cookies to the community at Founders Park. And lastly, we made a recommendation to support the 2023 Local Parks and Recreation Fund grant application intended to be used for field resurfacing. And I just want to take a moment at the end here to thank all of the Parks and Athletics Council members and also the town staff. They do an excellent job with our park program here at the Town of Farragut. Any questions?
No, it's pretty good. Pretty good recap there,
Thanks,
Jeff.
Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next will be the Stormwater Committee.
Good evening. I'm Violet Freudenberg, Chair of the Stormwater Committee. The town of Farragut is required by the EPA to participate in the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, or NPDES, Stormwater Permit Program. So as part of this permit process, the town is required to implement a program of stormwater management, and our Stormwater Committee provides oversight for this program. So we have 6 specific measures: public education and outreach, public involvement and participation, illegal discharge detection and elimination, construction site stormwater control, post-construction stormwater management, and pollution prevention. So our committee also serves as an appellate body of appeals for notice violations and civil penalty assessments related to water quality as they come about. This year we supported a youth member as part of our committee. So as an update, let's see, last year our committee helped the town review the notice of intent for our Phase 2 NPDES permit. We assisted with the review of new educational materials and marketing strategies, including new banners, public environmental stormwater awareness, and a new stormwater mascot. I lost on the voting. And started the outdoor classroom strategic plan. So some of our tasks that we're going to work on for this upcoming year is an outdoor classroom strategic plan, ordinance revisions, and a tree and shrub giveaway, and continue to participate in the Adopt a Stream program. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, not least, will be the Museum Committee. Dot, you're up.
My name is Dot LaMarche, and I live at 340 Eisenhower Street, and I'm the chairman of the Museum Committee. And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to report on our committee tonight. As you know, we have a committee of wonderful, dedicated members and volunteers. Our decision was made to close the museum May the 31st. We will be meeting on the 27th of this month for our monthly meeting, and a reception afterwards to honor all of our volunteers. We will not meet in July, but we will be planning our float which will be in the museum float, which will be in the 4th of July parade. We've already started making arrangements for that. And we look forward to the opening of the museum, whenever it will be, hopefully next year. And we're planning it to be the very best museum we've ever had, with memories of Farragut, Concord, Admiral Farragut, and the Battle of Campbell Station. And I want to thank Karen Tyndall. We're now placed under tourism. Our committee is under tourism. And I'd like to thank her for all the help that she's given us on our able to function and be the best committee here. So I want to thank her. And then I also want to say that I have our museum financials. I've given each one of the board a copy. But I'd just like to mention to you, to the public, that we now have a balance in our savings of $73,991.98. In our checking, we have $1,060.98. And in our gift shop savings, we have $10,950.24. So we're very, very proud of how we stand with our money. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dot. You folks do a good job with the museum. We look forward to reopening. Okay, next will be the Vice Mayor's report.
I don't have, and I'm just going to let everyone know that the Sparrow Euphoric Cheese's wine bars, this, was it Sparrow? Is, I don't know if they want me saying this in public or not. It's their soft opening. I went in there tonight. It's beautiful. So if you have an opportunity, please support. They're a great small business. We really appreciate them being in the town.
Okay, any other aldermen have anything to report?
Nothing, Mayor.
Nothing? Okay. Dave? Tonight we have only one ordinance for review and public hearing. It will be on the second reading. Ordinance 23-08, ordinance to amend the Farragut Municipal Code, Chapter 2, Article 6, Finance, Section 2-229, authorization of purchases by deleting it in its entirety and substituting a new language for purchasing authorization.
Yes, sir. There are no changes for this ordinance, and the gist of it is to take our limit that we have to do a competitive bid from $10,000 to $25,000. The motion is to approve ordinance 2308 on second and final reading.
Okay, any resident comments?
No, sir.
None?
Move we approve.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Discussion, we'll start out with Alderman White.
I have none, Mayor.
Nothing? Okay, Vice Mayor?
I have nothing.
I have nothing as well. Discussion closed. I will now ask for a roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Poplin.
Yes.
Alderman White.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show that the amendment to the ordinance 23-08 has been approved on the second reading by roll call vote. Okay, next we'll move on to some business items. Looks like we have 8 of those to review and consider for approval tonight. And we will start off with approval of agreement between the town of Farragut and the Smithville HOA, and I understand that has been
Deleted.
pulled. Okay, then that is off. Next will be approval of request for a variance from the distance between driveway requirements as provided for in the driveways and other access ways in association with a proposed access onto Kingston Pike for the Knoxville, Tennessee Temple. 13001 Kingston Pike. It is zone C1. It's 5.2 acres. And Moody Nolan is the applicant.
Good evening. Mark Shipley. I'll present this. At the May Planning Commission meeting, there was a site plan that was approved for a temple for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's to be constructed on a parcel just to the west of Christ Covenant Presbyterian Church and just to the east of the fast-paced urgent healthcare facility that was recently completed. This property is about 5.2 acres. It's currently zoned commercial. It fronts on both Kingston Pike in the south and to the north on Fleener Road. As part of the site plan, it was approved on the west part of their parcel. They tie into an access way that was stubbed into this property when fast-paced urgent care was developed. And then they are proposing their own separate access to the east, roughly 307 feet from the access for fast-paced. And because Kingston Pike is a major arterial, new access points are required to be 400 feet apart per our driveways and other access ways ordinance. So since this is only 307 feet from the access to the west, they're requesting a variance of 93 feet, excuse me. And when we reviewed this variance request with the Planning Commission, we discussed different options like a right-in, right-out for this eastern access. And right-in, right-out is always a safer access at any location. But after talking more with the town engineer, I think we were comfortable with the access that was proposed. There are no accesses on the south side of Kingston Pike within 400 feet of their proposed access. And the thought was when a development occurs on the south side that we'll try to work with that applicant or those applicants to try to line up their access with the proposed access. So we did not really see an issue at the staff level with what they were proposing. So when this was presented to the Planning Commission for a formal recommendation, they did unanimously recommend approval of this access and the associated variance. The property itself is not even 400 feet in width. Originally, when they came to the staff, they had a loop access. They did not tie into the fast-paced urgent care access, and we basically said, you have to do that. That's why it was stubbed into their property. So what they ended up proposing is kind of a compromise from both their perspective and the town's perspective in terms of access. The parcel to the east, immediate east of this property, which is actually just west of Christ Covenant, is a little over 1 acre, and it really has fairly limited developable area. So if anything does get developed there, it's not likely to be a very large building and generate a lot of traffic. That was one of the reasons for supporting the variance, along with the fact that they did tie in and that the accesses on the south side could be reviewed at the time development is proposed in that location. So for all those reasons, the Planning Commission did unanimously recommend approval of the access and the variance, and the staff recommends approval of this access and the associated 93-foot variance.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any resident comments?
No, sir.
None? Okay, discussion, and we'll start with Alderman White.
No, sir.
None, Vice Mayor?
I have none.
I have none as well. This is a pretty straight-up deal. With session complete, I'll ask that all in favor vote by saying yes.
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 Let the record show the request has been approved as presented. Next will be approval of letter of intent to purchase property off McPhee Road adjacent to the railroad tracks in Farragut, Tennessee, being a portion of Knox County map 24-02 and 24-03.
Thank you, Mayor. The town and the Scott family purchased the former Thompson Farm back in 2020. This is located on the west of McPhee Road, north of the railroad tracks along Boyd Station Road, with additional property north to Allen Kirby Road and west into Loudoun County. The Scotts had initially been in discussions with Knox County Schools about the purchase of part of the property for a school, but unfortunately those discussions and kind of fell by the wayside. The school system decided to go with other options. After those negotiations expired, the town began discussions with Mr. Scott about the purchase of the property and a portion of the property for additional park and open space for our future needs. As of now, the town has 4 parks, and we have no future growth opportunities at any of those parks. In previous discussions on this item, we discussed this at our board workshop on April the 13th, at our MPC meeting on April the 20th, when they recommended approval of the CIP to the board, mayor, and alderman, and then also on May 25th and June the 8th, when the board adopted the budget ordinance for 2024. I'd like to call Ron Ostrike down, our Parks and Rec Director, to talk a little bit about the importance of parks to our community before I get into the bulk of the issues and discussion on the letter of intent.
Thank you, David. I first want to say thank you, Board, for allowing me to speak with you regarding the potential purchase of land. I have 30-plus years of professional experience in the field of parks and recreation and 50-plus years of loving open space. State and national parks, forest preserves, and conservation agencies serve as the stewards of hundreds of thousands of acres of open land and green spaces throughout the United States. These areas play a vital role in protecting and preserving natural resources and providing recreation and wellness opportunities to citizens. On local levels, cities, towns, and villages, as well as conservation and park districts, play a critical role in the land conservation and outdoor recreation framework. Despite public support for parks and natural areas, it's being rapidly lost to development. And many agencies lack adequate financial resources to further their land acquisition efforts. Once it's gone, it's lost forever. Research indicates that green spaces have a positive effect on residents, including social, psychological, and physical health. These same studies indicate that green environments are associated with positive physical health outcomes by enabling and supporting higher levels of physical activity, improving immune system functioning, and improving functional health status and independent living skills among older adults. According to the National Recreation and Park Association, many communities have adopted a general guideline of having at least 10 acres for every 1,000 residents. Farragut currently has 140 acres of park property and 24,000 residents. This calculation leaves us a bit short of the NRPA guideline. This additional acreage brings us closer to that target. Lastly, I want to share with you some actual statistics from the Town of Farragut Parks and Recreation Master Plan. 69.04% of those surveyed are in support of new parks. That is 524 out of the 759 people surveyed. 73% of those want more natural areas within these parks. 68% want more playgrounds. 86% want more greenways and connections. And 70% want more picnic pavilions. Board, I applaud your efforts to acquire this land. Although it will not be this board's decision to develop this property into actual recreational activities, your visionary commitment to preserving open space for the future of this town is commendable.
Thanks, Ron.
Any questions?
What was the guidelines for park per resident again?
It's 10 acres for every 1,000 residents.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Ron. So, Mayor and Board of Aldermen, the letter of intent before you tonight is to discuss purchasing 55 acres of land that is approximately in this location that you see on your screen. In addition to the purchase of that land at $100,000 an acre, so $5.5 million, there would be a donation from the Scott family of 15 acres in addition to the town, making a total of 70 acres of contained park all in one spot. Total price per acre at that, with the donation, which would be the largest donation the town has ever received in its history, would be $78,571 per acre. Section 9 of the letter of intent really discusses the bulk of the, I guess, the agreements between the parties that would need to go forward if this was to be approved by the board and ultimately by the Scott family. So let me start first on the purchase property, and that's the 55 acres. The 55 acres of land, when purchased, would be the town's to decide what to do with in any capacity. If the town decided in the future that you wanted to sell the property, or a future board decided to sell the property, they could. This is an investment at today's dollars in property, and what I've seen from Farragut over the last several years that I've lived here, those values continue to go up each and every year. The other thing with the 55 acres is that there would be a dedicated access easement across the property and across the donated tract as well. In order to connect the Scott property to where they are now, they currently connect to McPhee Road. This would give them that connection as well. It does not mean that the town of Farragut has to build a road to their property. It would mean that if in the future we had not done anything with the property or only maybe partially done something with the property, that it would be his responsibility or whoever develops the rest of that property, their responsibility to connect to wherever that road is at that time. During the master plan process of the acreage here, that would be the time that we would work on getting that easement solidified and put into a proper context and approved by the Planning Commission and ultimately by the board. The 15 acres of land, there are a couple of restrictions or deed restrictions that would be placed on that piece of property. One is that the buffer, which we do have in our ordinances, and we have done various buffers around town. The most recent one that we've done is located on the north side of McPhee Park. But this would be a buffer on the western part of the acreage. Again, that would be consistent with our buffer ordinances with the town of Farragut. Other things with the 15 acres, we could put up to 12,000 square feet of buildings out there. In various capacities, but no building could be a larger footprint than 6,000 square feet. And then finally, there would also be a contingency that anything done on that 15 acres would need to be for a public or park type of use. So those are the contemplations that were put before the board for the Section 9 of that. This would allow the town 90 days to inspect the property, to survey the property, do all the due diligence that we would need to do to make sure that all the environmental assessments are done properly. If at any time during that 90-day period the town elects to withdraw from the agreement, we can do so without penalty. And then the proposed closing date would be no later than November 15th, 2023. This does coincide with our strategic plan, which is the community is connecting our community with excellent parks, greenways, trails, sidewalks, and recreational programs. And again, I think this would be a investment in our future and our future generations of people that decided to call Farragut home someday down the road. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions, but I would definitely recommend approval of this to the Board of Mayor and Alderman.
Move to approve.
I'll second. Resident comments.
Yes, sir, we have a few tonight. Our
Okay.
first one is Steve Maddox, 13190 Raswell Way.
Thank you. Steve Maddox, 13190 Razel Way, Knoxville. I am the owner and developer of the property on the northwest side of Watt Road, which is known as Prosperity Crossing. It's a 230-acre development. I'm not here to comment at all on the purchase of the property by Farragut for a park. And as a matter of fact, I agree with a lot of what the previous speaker said about needing open land. So I think that's your all's business. I do want to clarify the record, though, as I was read a quote from last week that regarding the plans for what we are working on doing on the property on our side. We are building a sports complex. It's set out, laid out right now for 12 full-size, multi-use, all-turf, lighted sports fields. They can be used for soccer, football, rugby, just all, and turned corner-wise for baseball, softball, and all those kinds of uses. We're also going to have a medical component, hotels, restaurants, a full entertainment development. But I do want to make it clear that the sports complex is going to be a major component of our development, and we are going to build it, and it's going to be one of the best in the southeast, and it's all on one layer, one level, and so it's going to be one continuous sheet of turf so it can be used for many uses. And I just wanted to make that clear. As a matter of fact, there's a story today in the Farragut Press, and I've got to say, as far as newspaper stories goes, this one got the facts right. So if you would like to learn more about it, then this would be a good place to read about it, to get more of the details. But I just want to emphasize again, I think it was stated that we were not going to do sports parks in one of the previous meetings. We are going to do sports parks. Any questions?
We're looking forward to it. It's a very unique design that you have. I think it's a lot of forward thinking with this, and you making it mixed use to where you have surrounding facilities to support the infrastructure that you're putting up there. I think it's a great use of land that has been something that nobody ever thought would ever change other than just be stair steps up the ridge. So I commend you highly on what you're doing.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other questions?
No, but I want to say that I'm very impressed. I've been excited about a sports facility for a long time here, to kind of keep our kids here and play in the area, and then bring kids from everywhere, but to have the right facility where they can stay on that property and they can eat and they can stay there in a hotel, that's a great idea, and I think it'll be very successful.
It'll also be a big benefit for Turkey Creek and the other surrounding areas here in Farragut.
I agree.
Okay,
Thank you for the clarification,
Thank you.
Mr. Maddox. We appreciate you being here.
thank you.
Speaker is Larry Doss, 12735 Evans Road.
My name's Larry Doss, 112735 Evans Road, and also my children live at 702 and 704 and 708 McPhee Road. So
McPhee?
McPhee, yes, we're very close to the railroad tracks and where the property is going to be put. I really don't have that much against development. I do have it when there's so many questions to be answered. First, the cost, $100,000 per acre. That's a very high cost, and I do not think that if you have to sell it in the future, you will ever recover that kind. We just sold property close to me at 65 and 70,000. I don't know. It just makes mine more valuable, I guess, but that's not what I'm concerned about. I am concerned about the access road that's going to be going back into the back side of that property. Scott, I know, owns that 162 acres that's behind the 30 acres. And I don't know about an access road going through that could possibly tie into that and bring even more traffic onto McPhee Road. That answer has not been answered. I am concerned also about the McPhee Road at Old Stage. I have asked 100 times to get that analyzed as to what's going to happen at that intersection. If you live at that part of it and you go down McPhee Road during 4 to 5, 6 o'clock, you're stuck if you're trying to make a left to go out of that McPhee Road. And it has not been looked at, has not been discussed, and money could be used a lot better than the $5.5 million that we'll go spend on that to take care of the infrastructure. We have problems on Kingston Pike. We have problems at McPhee Road. That can be solved with a roundabout, but still we have problems in traffic. I have lived here since '72, and I can tell you the traffic is awful now, and with the 246 more lots that's going in, it's just going to get worse. This down here in front of these apartments needs to be fixed, and it should be the priority not to park out there. That land's not going anywhere. And the last thing I have is about the road that goes in and the ordinances that are going to have to be busted to be able to do that. And when I say busted, I'm going to say exactly what I read the opinion from your lawyer stating about the lights that are at McPhee Park. Okay? There is no way that this entity has the authority. And I'll say it again, you do not have the authority to change that law and do it against what's all the way around. If you say it's 28 foot on this parking lot, then it's 28 foot is the height that you can put into it. The 14th Amendment guarantees me that right that you cannot do the law any different for anybody especially the entity of Farragut. So later on, I may discuss that with you because I brought the Constitution just in case you want to read Article 1 of the 14th Amendment. And in Article 1, it states that you do not have the right to do the law any different for one person than for another, and especially not Farragut. Anyway, I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, otherwise I'll let it go with that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Next.
Our next speaker is Ron Pinchuk, 12618 Red Canyon Road.
Again, my name is, is Ron Pinchuk, 12618 Red Canyon Road. Appreciate the opportunity to talk. As many of you know, I have been a strong advocate of parks for the last 12 years. After joining the Parks Committee in 2011, I made the expansion of McPhee Park a major goal of mine. I spent the next 12 years working towards that goal as a Parks Committee member and as a member of BOMA. It was a very long, challenging road, but it was worth every bit of it. I am so proud of what we've developed and created. Let me just take a few minutes to briefly explain about the development of McPhee Park. The vision for the town's fourth park, McPhee Park, started with the purchase of 26 acres of land on McPhee Road in 1995. An original plan for Phase 1 was completed in 1999, 4 years later. And in 2008, the construction was completed of only 15 acres based on, again, a revised plan. These 15 acres in Phase 1 included 2 soccer fields, walking trails, a restroom, and parking. That same year, 2008, an additional 17 acres of land was purchased adjacent to the park, bringing the total now to 43 acres. In 2010, construction was completed on Phase 2, which included the playground, splash pad, 2 large pavilions, restrooms, and more walking trails and more parking. Also in that year, 2010, an additional 9.5 acres was purchased next to the park, now bringing the total to 53 acres after 3 separate purchases. That was over 17 years to get all that property purchased and put together. Phase 3 was recently completed in 2022. So as you can see, McPhee Park, as we know it today, and I want to remind everybody that this park is still not complete. It's taken 27 years to get to this point, from the time we bought that first piece of property until now. So a lot of people were thinking, well, we've already think you're going to put fields out there, rectangular fields or ball fields or whatever. Believe me, the process utilized 27 years of BOMA input, staff reviews, numerous committee meetings, as well as multiple citizen surveys. It took at least 6 master plan revisions, not counting minor revisions, to get to this point. So as you can see, this is a slow and arduous process that was carefully orchestrated. Key point. We know that Farragut is underdeveloped in park space, as Ron mentioned earlier. An amount of undeveloped space in our town is quickly dwindling. We need to take action as soon as possible to secure more green space before it's all gone. In our CIP, we set aside an additional $300,000 a year for land purchases for future amenities. Now, we've used that money in the past to buy the church, Lutheran Church, where we created a community center and senior center. We've used that money also to buy Campbell Station Inn. No telling what that would have been had someone bought it and developed it on their own. We got a beautiful plaza there and a building that is a historical piece of property that you can't put a value on. Opportunities like the Scott family property must be considered as a real value to our town. If we purchase the 55 acres proposed, the Scott family will donate an additional 15 acres and bring that total to 70 acres. We will not be able to find an opportunity like this again. Please don't let this monumental opportunity slip through our hands. I strongly recommend that we move forward with the plans to purchase this land. Any questions for me or comments? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ron.
Our next speaker is Kim Frasch at 853 Belgrove Road.
Kim Frosch, 853 Belgrove Road in Berkeley Park. If y'all don't read this magazine, you're missing it. I have met more neighbors who've said, well, I don't have time to do that. I'm a neophyte at this. I managed to graduate from the Introduction to Farragut class. I'm learning every day, but I subscribe to the vision that these people bring forth, and everything that I learned from David, Jen Hatmaker, all the great people in that class, that we need to take advantage of this opportunity. God is not going to make any more acreage like this. It is going to be a struggle to finish all the things that we want to do with it. And I hope nobody wants to buy it. But I strongly advocate, I feel just like Ron Pinchot does, that we need to move ahead with this. And let's remember, a letter of intent mitigates our risk. You know, when a company wants to buy another company and do an acquisition, they do a due diligence. That's what we're going to do here. So we should really take advantage of it, dot all our I's, cross all the T's, and then make an informed decision that we're spending the money correctly. God willing, I think we will. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Next speaker is George Ellis, 12650 Brass Lantern Lane.
George Ellis, 12650 Brass Lantern Lane. I'm for buying this park for some future use, if it's worth buying in the first place, which I'm glad diligence is being done on this. I have a couple of questions, or let me put it this way. I'd rather raise a couple of points. First of all, when the negotiations happened with this piece of property, I don't know if the seller's here or not. Makes no difference to me. But when you give a 50-foot right-of-way all the way through 3,000 feet, you've got approximately 3.8 acres. That's what it was when I took engineering. So in other words, we're giving the seller back 4 acres, which is kind of nice. The second thing is, since I do live next to McPhee Park, as some people may know, if we've learned any lessons from McPhee Park, that's to put a fence in and a gate. And I'm just raising the point, and maybe we can get an answer tonight from this, because it's kind of intriguing. If you put a 50-foot right-of-way that goes all the way back past the 15-acre tract into the other property, does that mean we're going to have 2 separate roads? Because if you put a security gate on one side to stop people coming in at night and doing their usual mischief, you have to give access to the other gate for people to get back if something is built back there. So how is this going to be done? Has it even been considered? And bear in mind that another road is going to take away another couple of acres possibly. So these are just questions. Like I said, I think having more green space in Farragut's a wonderful idea. I wish every town in the world could do it, but they don't. But with that said, I'll just let you think about it. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Our next speaker is Lawrence Seagrass, 12103 Valley Trail.
Good evening, Lawrence Seagrist, 12103 Valley Trail. And I'm here to express concerns about this. I'm not here to say that it's a horrible idea, but I'm here to say that I got concerns about it. And so my biggest concern, I just found out about it, so, you know, I'm not like an expert in 24 hours, but it's the land deal that Knox County walked away from. And I was like, why are we going to go after even more of the land that Knox County walked away from? And so the reason why Knox County walked away from this, even though they had a purpose, they needed it and they had a plan for it and they wanted to do something with it. We're a little more in a speculative mode. Even though they had that, they walked away from it. So Knox County Assistant Law Director Gary Dupler gave 4 reasons why, $100,000 an acre. He said that was too high of a price. So that's the same deal that we're looking at. I know there's a gift. Knox County was going to pay for a road that would then open the seller's other property up for development. So we've already discussed that. I'm not going to go over that again. But so we're doing the same thing. We're giving this guy the opportunity to get access to his property. I'm not saying that's a bad deal for him. I'm just questioning if it's a good deal for us. Neither buyer nor seller used a real estate professional. That was the Knox County thing. And point number, 16, we've tied our hands for some reason that we can't use a broker. I don't understand why we would tie our hands. If we're paying for it, who cares? And then when Knox County requested more time to complete their due diligence, the sellers asked for more money an acre. So this to me is a second red flag. We don't want you to use a broker, and we're going to raise the price to kind of push you to make a decision faster. So it's kind of like we don't want you to do very much due diligence. So they walked away from it, and they had a serious need. So that's the reason why I'm not saying that it's a bad idea. I'm just saying that I have concerns about the way it's constructed. I'm not sure we're getting the best deal that we can. So when I read that, there's 4 points that I think of from a strategic standpoint, a negotiator standpoint. So they feel like either they don't have the legal right to put a road in and they want the government to do it for them, or they want somebody else to spend the money to build at least a portion of their road. So that seems like a big leverage point for negotiation to get that price down from $100,000 an acre. Not using a broker, I've already discussed that. They've proven to be inflexible. So if we go in and we find something and we want to push back on it, they've proven to be inflexible, in fact, kind of belligerent and not chase Knox County off. And then they've, for some reason, maybe you know the answer, they've decided to pretend like they're giving a gift. We're getting the whole acreage, so why pretend like we're getting a gift? We're paying it. They're not going to give us the money. They're not going to give us the acreage if we don't do the deal. So my request to the board, two things. Don't sign it as currently written. I think that we can negotiate a better deal. I think this guy's property is not worth what he wants it to be worth. And I think if we look into it a little bit, we can maybe understand his motivations and maybe do a better deal for the citizens here. I think that's it. My second request, and I think this is the bigger picture, is taking a big step back, is he was going to sell 32 acres to Knox County, and now we're getting 77. Do the people of the town want 70 acres or however many it is? Do we want that? Do we want 20? Maybe we want 0. And so what I would say is let's back off a little bit, table this, and let the people of the city come in, take a look at it, get more input. Like I said, I just found out about it yesterday. I know that's my fault, not yours, but I don't think this is something that the town, that people of the town know very much about. So I appreciate your attention and your time.
Okay, thank you, Lawrence.
Our next speaker is Michael Wilson, 412 Eisenhower Street.
Good evening, Michael Wilson, 412 Eisenhower Street, Farragut, Tennessee. I want to start my comments off by saying I really have no objection to the town purchasing land for a future park. I would be part of that 69% that would say purchase more park, more walking trails. I enjoy them every day. My issue is with the board spending over $5 million on land while refusing to fund $1.25 million this year needed to address our traffic problems in the town center. I want to start by providing some historical context for my comments. In 2021, most of you on this board voted to approve the Biddle Farm project. As part of the package for that project, the traffic study indicated there to be 26 instances of town center lanes that would be failing or near failing by 2025. These results were calculated based on 2 pending mitigation strategies. One was the light timing system the town is currently investing in. The second was to add additional left turn lanes at Kingston Pike and Campbell Station Road, that intersection, and an additional right turn lane at the Kingston Pike and Concord Road intersection. At the March 23rd, 2023 budget workshop, you all discussed the second mitigation strategy, additional turn lanes. During the discussion, it was said that you don't know what the solution is for this area as we're trying to make this intersection so many things. The town engineer stated that he was okay, quote, if he didn't have another project, unquote, at which point everyone in the room chuckled and laughed. Alderman Meyer said that he was not pressed on the issue and that he didn't see this as a burning issue right now. The town administrator said, quote, "Frankly, we don't have the additional $1.25 million in the budget right now, so we would have to go find a way to fit that in there," unquote. Then a recommendation was to move this back in the 6-year CIP cycle. Ultimately, I believe this was moved back to 2026, a time when most of you will be out of office. As well, the mayor advised that we should get the red light timing figured out and see where we are. Yet the Biddle Farm traffic study included both of those mitigation strategies and still showed we'd have significant traffic problems in the middle of town. So all of this context being said, we didn't have $1.25 million to implement a mitigation strategy I highlighted. Yet all of you found over $5 million to buy a parcel of land for a future park that's 10 years down the road. My question is, if we have $5 million to spend, why not address our current issues first? Namely, traffic in the town center. Traffic that's only going to get worse as Biddle Farm is completed. Why have you pushed off the increasing traffic congestion to your successors instead of dealing with it? I am sure if you did any kind of outreach to your constituents and asked which is more important, a future park or the current traffic in the town center area, the vast majority would say the latter. During the 90 days that were mentioned by Mr. Smoke, I asked that you go out to the residents and better understand their priorities, namely the additional turn lanes in the town center. This would ensure that our limited funds are spent in accordance with the residents' needs and desires. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Our next speaker is Joe LaCroix, 11123 Farragut Hills Boulevard.
Feel like the price is right. Joe LaCroix, 11123 Farragut Hills Boulevard. I'd like to take the time, this opportunity to voice my support for the purchase of this property. The letter of intent is just the beginning of a long-term project, long-term planning that the town and folks in the town desire. I'm reminded of the idiom, strike while the iron is hot. This opportunity that's in front of the board may be the last time that you have the last time that such a large piece of property would be available for purchase in parks. I've thought about some of the usage of this property in the future if you do decide to pick it up. This property is large enough to protect ecological and environmentally and create an environmentally protected space. Nature trails, parks, connectors that go back into McPhee, which we've already spent quite a bit of money developing, event space. This is a large enough area to hold events that we could bring tourists into the area with. And last but not least, purchasing and taking 70 acres off of the market would definitely curb development, which is what a lot of people would like to see. The town currently has the funds on hand to purchase this. And I think if we didn't make this purchase today, that it could be detrimental to the goals that have been set forth in our long-term strategic plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Our next speaker is Derek Wright, 12951 Pine Meadows.
Good evening. Derek Wright, 12951 Pine Meadows Lane. And I'm here to also express support for the purchase of the land. I'm a lifelong member of Town of Farragut, this area, and having more parks and seeing more land used for this type of space is certainly a benefit and an exciting opportunity for us. Also a member of the Parks and Rec Committee. Very proud of the work that the committee has done the years leading up to my joining recently, and I would like to see that work continue. We do have an abundance amount of developments, commercial developments in our town, and that is obviously growing, as you can see every day. I think an opportunity is, as was just said, to help curb some of that would be a benefit to help us grow our park system. I don't know the exact ratio, this statistic, but I think it's possible that we may still be under a ratio of residents to park space relative to other communities in other areas. I would like to also see that grow, the ratio of residents to parks, to have opportunities for our kids to play, and not just the kids, but everyone. I know that when we're looking at housing in the area, and when a lot of friends are looking for housing in the area, and also I'm in a business where people come in and I help them secure property. People want to see parks and this type of availability, and having that is certainly a benefit for our community for retention. I want people to stay here in Farragut and want to come and play in Farragut and use our space, and that's important to me as well. I think the more green space, the better. Again, I like to keep people staying here. I know for my wife and I, we look at housing in the Farragut area to move and to relocate. We don't want to have to leave Farragut because of green space that we want to have nearby. We'd like to have it here. As was just mentioned, this is not an amount of acreage that will come available again, most likely. And if it is available now, strike while the iron's hot. I appreciate hearing that, and I would support that as well. I think to raise any issues that are negative against it certainly is reasonable, but for those reasons that could potentially curb traffic, ease congestion, if we have an opportunity to smooth that process and make it more livable, an area that is more family friendly, I'd like to offer that perspective as well, that this is an area that is already very congested and is getting tighter with more housing going in. Let's try to keep it more family friendly, try to keep it where families are going to play and people are going to walk and play some games, not to compete with a sports park, but tennis, pickleball, basketball, et cetera, and not leave it open for just hundreds of more housing or commercial development down the road. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and again, thank you for hearing. And again, I commend the Parks and Rec Committee in years previous, and what we're doing in the future, what our plans are in the future to continue to make our community more family-friendly, green space-oriented, and again, the more land we have for that, the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek.
Our final speaker is Mike Mitchell, 716 Brixworth.
I'm Mike Mitchell. I live in Brixworth, and so we've had 4 people tonight speak in favor of this. We have 24,000 some odd people in the town. In the past 2 BOMA meetings, only 1 person has spoken to this, and it was me. I again address the issue that the new Open Meetings Act requires that the body clearly describe the matters to be discussed at the meeting. Well, when I was here last time, there was no agreement on the board the reason for the purchase. There is no reason stated in the agenda item. The packet is not the agenda item. They are separate. There is no agreement on this body what this purchase is about. It began as ball fields. And when the public found out it was ball fields, it quickly morphed into a park. And then it morphed into, we're going to buy it, and we're going to hold it for 10 years, and we'll figure it out later. When I'm sitting in traffic on Kingston Pike, the last thing I'm thinking about is why we need another park. I agree with the comments in the Farragut Press today that traffic is more important. I am very disappointed that this body has pushed the 2 new left-hand turn lanes at Kingston Pike and Campbell Station Road, which we desperately need, to 2026. That is a new administration. Biddle Farm Apartments will be totally populated. The apartments at Watt Road will be totally populated. The apartments across from the Walmart will be totally populated. And that's when you want to address the most important issue in the town is after all those people are here, I'd much rather see the turn lanes. I don't really have an issue if you want to buy a park, if you have significant public outreach. So far, what is the result of the outreach? 4 people tonight say we'd like this purchase. What about the other 23,900 and change? There was no public outreach. And the issue is, are you adhering to the law? When I look in the packet and I look at the description of this, it still doesn't tell us the reason for the purchase. It's nebulous. And I believe as such, it's a violation of the new Open Meetings Act signed by the governor on April 25th of this year. Why are you buying the land? What is the purpose? This body can't even agree. I would prefer that we fix the bigger issue, and that's the traffic. Any questions?
No questions from me.
And that
Next.
That's all of our speakers.
Oh, is that all? Okay. Well, if that's the case. We will move on to a discussion. Alderman White, you can start that off.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I do have a few issues based on the emails and calls and text messages I got, just asking questions of what's going on, what's happening, because nobody understood what was happening, actually where the land was, what we were going to do with it. So that was a cause for concern for me. Like the gentleman said, he only found out about it yesterday. A lot of people don't even know about it right now. I didn't think we had enough citizen input. I feel like there should have been more time with an announcement and explain what we wanted to do and let the public comment and then make a decision based on what the public thinks rather than what we think. I have a little bit of problem with the law. I haven't settled in my mind exactly yet that we are completely in compliance. I'm not an attorney. I'm not an engineer. I'm just a country boy trying to figure it out. But right now, I haven't fully convinced myself that we're 100% legal with the agenda. The other thing I'm having a problem with is in our presentation to buy the property, a final condition put on us by the property seller, and it's not a question, and it's not asking. It is a final condition that we got to give him a 50-foot easement that be granted across the donated property and the purchase tract to allow connectivity to the remaining farm owned by the Scott family. Well, I don't like that. It appears like collusion to me. You give me something, I'll give you something. I don't think we can do that. I don't think we should do that. That's like cutting a deal in the back room where you're smoking a big cigar. That doesn't work for me. And in the and that's 2 or 3 of the most important things that bother me. But the biggest thing is I don't think enough people have had input. And if I'm allowed to, Mayor, I'm going to make a motion that we table this motion for now and try to get something that we can get more citizen input and come to a wiser decision and let more people have their say is what they think about it, whether they like it or don't like it or or where it is. So I'll leave that up to you if I'm allowed to make that motion.
Not at this moment, because we have a motion and a second on the
Well,
floor.
he can make
You could make an amendment.
I don't remember us making a motion and having a second.
well, I motioned, he seconded.
Yeah.
But you can make a substitute motion, but you would need a second.
Right, I would. Well, I want to make that substitute motion.
Okay, that motion has died without a second. Okay, next, are you complete?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Next will be the Vice Mayor.
I'm going to defer to, before I speak, defer to our attorney regarding the Open Meetings Act.
Okay.
Two things I'd like you to address, the Open Meetings Act and the final condition, which, in my opinion, he's going to reserve for himself, regardless of whether we purchase this property or somebody else purchases this property, he's going to reserve the 50-foot easement access.
Yeah, he owns the property now.
So he gets to
So
make
he gets
the,
to make that decision if he sells it on that condition or not.
Okay,
correct.
and Steve, then
And I'll
go
deal
ahead.
with that in a minute, but first of all, let me say the Open Meetings Act and the requirements for publishing agendas and the technicalities that Mr. Mitchell raised, we've been complying with the current, those laws actually were amended recently, but we've been complying with the amended provisions of the law for years, ever since I've been the town attorney. We publish agendas. We don't try to spell out in the agenda items what every ramification, nuance might be with respect to an item on the agenda. All we have to do is reasonably describe what is being proposed, reasonably being the operative word. If we want people to read our agendas, we better keep them relatively short in today's world, because with sound bites, people won't read more than 2 sentences. But if they want to read more than 2 sentences on our website, you can go get the agenda. You can get every piece of paper that is sent to the members of the board and review the letter of intent yourself. It's been on the website for I don't know how long.
A week.
It's been at least a week. It's only required to be there for 48 hours. If you want to learn about what's going on in this town, all you have to do is get on the website, click on the agenda, go to the agenda item, pull up everything that the board sees is right there in front of everybody. So to suggest somehow or another that nobody has had notice of what's been going on, heck, it was on the front page of the newspaper, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it was.
So I think everybody knows that this is being considered. And so I don't think there's, in my mind, as the town attorney, no question that our agenda is perfectly fine. Actually, it's better than almost all other towns do. We do a lot more detail than most people do. And we do exactly what the new law says we're supposed to do and have been doing it for years. The one issue I would like to address, because the representative for the seller is here, and I was going to ask him if he might address the issue of the value that was raised by one of the speakers, and also if he might not be able to add anything on the question of whether or not the reasoning behind, we've had somebody tell us what the reason is that the county backed off of this. I'm not, and it sounded like it was, the speaker was trying to blame it on the seller, which is why the county backed off. And I'm not sure that's the case, and I'd like to ask Mr. Ragsdale if he would address those 2 issues and anything else he'd like to say.
Thank you. I'm Dennis Ragsdale, 5504 Heathrow Drive, Knoxville. I'm a lawyer in town, mostly commercial real estate. I represent the Scotts. Tim Scott would have been here tonight, but he had plans. He's out west, pretty much off the grid right now, so I'm pinch hitting for him.
As far as the value goes, that was really negotiated between Mr. Scott and the county at the time that contract was being discussed. I'll take a little sidestep here and talk about the absence of brokers. You know, the function of that provision in the letter of intent is really for the parties to confirm to each other that neither has used a broker. It's not a prohibition against brokers, but it's to bar someone from being surprised that a broker shows up at closing and wants to be paid. So they're just disclosing to each other that there has been no broker. But the price was set at the $100,000 per acre on that. It was a smaller parcel. There was a reservation of a right of access back across because the property does have frontage on McPhee, and it was felt necessary to provide access, continuing access to McPhee as the property was put into use. That property, the full 31 acres, was to have been used for school purposes, and as Mr. Smoke had indicated earlier, the front 55 acres of this would not be subject to the restrictions. It's only the back 15 that's being donated, and that's really to provide a buffer. And then as far as why the county backed away, well, I mean, there are multiple perspectives of these things, but I will say that the contract was signed. It went well beyond the due diligence period. We attempted to work as far as extending the closing date and the due diligence periods. Yes, the seller did ask for some additional payment, primarily to cover his carrying costs. And that was what was explained to Mr. Dupler and our contacts at the county. So and from my perspective, there was no strong arm or attempt to raise the price. It was more, if they need more time to decide if they want to use this for a school, then that's fine, but we have some carrying costs to be taken into account as well. So that's about the perspective I can offer for that.
Was there an appraisal obtained?
Not that I recall.
Okay.
And again, I don't recall brokers having been involved in that part of the discussion either. Questions for me?
I think that's it.
Okay, at this point, Mr. White, you have any
I haven't,
questions?
I just wanted his, and then I have a lot
Oh,
to say.
okay, I'm sorry.
I'm not done.
Later.
So.
We do have, by the way, we do have an appraisal, and I think we got it from the county, and the appraised value has 5 or 6 different comparables in it. There are substantial prices, and the appraisal provides that the property is worth $100,000 an acre. That's what that appraisal says. Now, we didn't buy that appraisal. We got it from the county. It's a public record. That's what the county must have based their desire on to purchase the property. But
I will add to this. There was a property that sold on Boring Road that sold 15 acres for $1.8 million. So that's $120,000 an acre. So yes, property is going for over $100,000 an acre in the town of Farragut. So
Just clarification also, Mr. Ragsdale is representing the property owner.
Correct.
So he is a presenter, Alderman White, as far as the time limits.
I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Let me make one other comment about some of the things that, thank you, Mr. Ragsdale, about a couple of the points that were raised that I think can get lost in the shuffle. If the town's going to build a park or is going to develop the property for some purpose, there's going to have to be some access way provided for to get to whatever the town builds, from McPhee Road to wherever it decides to build that road. The way that the agreement works at this point is that the sellers would be allowed, I mean, if we're going to have to build the road anyway, and there's going to be traffic on that road, like all of our parks have traffic on the roads, then we would build that road, and the seller would have to tie in. They'd have to pay for the tie-in to our road that we build to service that whatever is built there. So, yes, there is going to be an easement that it's required. That's a condition. The seller is entitled, as the owner of the property, to sell property, reserving whatever easement he wants to. People may want to argue that's not a good idea. What I would say to you is, if we're going to build a road to service whatever we build there, if we're going to build a road, why not allow other people to use that road? All it does is increase the traffic going by our park. So it seems to me that the issue of the reservation of the easement, which is a requirement, there's no question, that's part of the deal that has been negotiated, is that they could have an access way to get back to their property. But whether or not it costs anything, if the town never does anything with the property, and Mr. Scott wants to eventually build a road, then he's going to have to build that road himself at his own expense. That's what the agreement, or that's what the letter of intent provides for at the moment. So just to clarify that was a pretty detailed part of the discussions that we've had. And I think on balance, from the standpoint of the town, it's a reasonable way to look at it. I would have to say, too, that I don't think we're paying $100,000 an acre for the property.
No.
I think we're getting 70 acres for, it's about $78,000 an acre.
Yeah.
And that's well below a bunch of the comparables in the appraisal that the county had done. And that's all I have.
So, I just wanted to add to that, the road doesn't have to, I sat down, and because I kind of like to fuss with this, I'm not going to dig too into details, because all we're doing tonight is a letter of intent to purchase land. But there is an opportunity to look at the Boyd Station train under the tracks and extend that out and build a roundabout there and have a road that's running along the north side of the railroad tracks, and not have an access point onto McPhee Road itself. That you would have a roundabout that would have a opportunity for McPhee Road or to Boyd Station. Now we have an access point into our 70 acres from that point, so that you only have that one access point, which you have gates and you can put fences, and you have all your trees. Hopefully the residents decide they want to keep all the trees, and we all move along with our days, that you've got an access point for someone to build a road to meet that wherever. That's an opportunity. Quite frankly, by buying this, it puts us in the driver's seat as to how that looks if we decide to develop. We get to decide as a community what we want to do. What it won't be is 119 homes, because that's what the 55 acres, if we don't buy this, a developer will buy this. I think people are not seeing this. We turn this down, we walk away from this property will be sold in the next couple of months to a developer, and there will be 119 homes going on that piece of property, and 1,000 some odd traffic that comes with it. This is an opportunity for us. I'll go back to 2019, October of 2019. We did a comprehensive land use plan update for the McPhee Road. We had the public come in and do a visioning for the McPhee Road corridor, particularly around the park, because that was where there was a little bit confusion on the land use map. And it was made very clear from the residents that they wanted to see, actually, a lot of them didn't want to see any development. But if they were going to see development, it was going to have to be single-family, low-density residential. That's all they wanted to see. And it was their preference that we don't have any. The fact of the matter is, the only way you get to control land is if you own land. There was a big narrative for a long time, lower the density of the land use plan. Well, you don't get any lower density than turning a piece of property, 55, 70 acres, into parkland. No houses. Even as agriculture, you can have 11 houses on the 55 acres. So the public spoke very loud and clear to us in 2019 what they wanted. And I don't think that attitude on McPhee Road has changed a bit. I think the residents there would be thrilled to not have the news that 119 more homes are coming in on McPhee Road. And that's, to me, quite frankly, right now, the big part of this. Most of this is heavily wooded. We have a primo opportunity to, as things grow out north of this area, to have a trail come in. I think a lot of people would like that. Don't have to remove trees. We can put this heavily wooded trail into place, and it would be just perfect. Keeps the trees. There's opportunities there. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking this is an opportunity for this community to get together in the next several years and this is how we do it. We master plan, we survey, we go. That's when you're going to hear from the public. What do you want to do with this land? These are some of the ideas. And this community gets to put together something really nice and something really interesting, because that's what we've done with all of our parks. And all of our parks are different. They've all developed out differently, but open space has been one of the things that a lot of our residents have asked for. Let me see if I want to. I understand Mr. Wilson's points. I've been doing a lot of research. I am struggling with Campbell Station Road and Kingston Pike. I understand it's an issue. If you go down to 321 and 11, look at that intersection. And tell me if that would be good for Farragut, the heart of our town. It's a morass of asphalt. Go to Kingston Pike and Cedar Bluff and tell me how that would be good for the heart of our town. The traffic study, in my mind, has only looked at a snapshot. It didn't consider, will we get a light at Loop Road and Woody Drive so more people can make a left-hand turn instead of making a right-hand turn? Loop Road and Woody Drive needs to be improved. The Municipal Center Drive will go across the Ford property, and we're starting to see some interest in the Ford property. Jamestown Boulevard will then have a light on either end of it. What do those things do to the intersection at Kingston Pike and Campbell Station Road? Before we move towards doing something that we can't take back and which will end up eventually put more traffic in the very part of our town that we don't want to see more traffic coming through, when we could have opportunities to divert that traffic or improve efficiency on other roads to deal with that traffic. These are opportunities we need to be exploring before we make that final decision to basically, in my mind, negatively and seriously negatively impact the heart of our community. So I'm sorry I got off track, but that was brought up. I think those were the biggest ones I wanted to address. Again, whether we purchase this land or not, the property owners are in the driver's seat. He's going to reserve his right to access to McPhee Road. He's going to preserve that right regardless of whether we purchase it or not. So I think this is an opportunity to address the concerns of the residents of McPhee Road that were expressed very vocally and loudly a couple of years ago. I think this is an open opportunity for us to have future space that could be really special and really unique. And most importantly, it's not going to be 119 homes.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor. I support this as well for a lot of reasons. It's an opportunity for our town in the future. I won't be here when it happens, but there will be other people behind us coming up that hopefully will support the vision that was started 42 years ago by a group of people that saw the handwriting on the wall, and they done something about it. And we have to remember that as we have grown, we've grown the parks with it. And without this land, then we will stop at that point. To address the traffic, and this is something that everybody seems to miss for some reason or another. They just don't want to discuss it. And it's very critical, and our town engineer's here. He can collaborate this with me, and we both sit on TPO boards. He's on the executive board, I'm on the, or the, the technical board, I'm on the executive. What we have found is whenever we have a traffic backup on the freeway, people get off the freeway. They go to Kingston Pike and they travel through our town. Okay? It don't matter how wide we make roads. That will not stop until they change the width of the freeway. What happens is you're going down the freeway, all of us, we see the backup at approaching Level Road. We all move to the left, and in a few minutes we get through it and we get off at Campbell Station or Watt Road or wherever we're going. The tourist does not recognize that because they don't live here. So what they do is they jump off, they go to Kingston Pike, and they cut through our town. If you don't believe that, then sit down at 35 North and look at the license plates as they go by and turn onto Campbell Station after cutting through our town. Look at all the big trucks that are cutting through our town. Today was a very good example of the wreck on the freeway, and we had tractor-trailer trucks all over our town. Now, it don't matter what we do. We cannot fix the freeway until the money is there, which has been appropriated, to widen the freeway, okay? And that will take from Level Road to the split, that will take it 4 lanes. There will be a 5th lane going from Watt Road all the way up to the top of the hill where the scales are at, just for the trucks. And I'm sure Mr. Maddox will probably be happy about these improvements because it's going to help his facility tremendously. But that's what's going on here with traffic. There's not a magic wand to fix this until the freeway is widened, and people will just continue on without getting off and cutting through our town, thinking that that's the best way to go. So I hope I addressed that. If there is any questions about that, I'm accessible. I don't get very many calls about that because most everybody understands it. They've read about it, and it's something that, again, I know Darrell gets the calls, I don't. So anyway, okay, yeah, I think everybody knows that. So, Alderman White, do you have anything to add?
I do have
Okay.
this one
Thank
point. Of course, nobody would second my motion. Just to make it clear, I don't care if we buy the land or not. I don't care. I was for it at one time because I thought we were going to have a sports complex, and that's what I wanted. But when the gentleman beat us to the punch and has got a lot better thing than we could have, then that kind of killed that idea. But I do not like the idea of threatening people and saying, I don't know how many times, what do you want? You want a park? You want 119 houses or 125 houses? That's threatening people to say this is the only choices. It's not. In reality, if you've ever built a house or cut a subdivision or you've done anything and you've got a lot, wooded lot, you got your hands full. Not many developers are going to go over there and tackle that. Like a developer's going to show up tomorrow and buy his property and we're going to be out of luck. That's bull crap. When you go into a wooded area like that with a tree ordinance like we have and expect the developer to make a bunch of money building a bunch of houses, that's just not true. Some developer may buy it. He may take the risk. If he's got deep pockets, maybe he can make some money. But I don't like the idea of making that to the residents over there on McPhee Road. And the attorney made a reference to the traffic. I highly respect his opinion, but come on. Do you think if we build a road back there and he's allowed to connect to 160 acres and it's zoned R1 and he can put a house on every half acre and they access McPhee, that's going to be less traffic? Man, I didn't graduate college, but I'm a little smarter than that. The people over there, I mean, sure, they're going to like less traffic. But you build a road back there and let it tie into 160 acres and build 230 houses and have that traffic hitting McPhee Road and see what you got. So, but hey, I've made my point. Y'all have already denied my motion, so you got to do what you got to do.
I'm going to make a few
Okay.
points. First off, when this was being considered for the school purchase, they were only purchasing the back part. They already had a deal with somebody to purchase the front part. You can believe me or not, I got nothing to gain here. This is, but I would really hate for us to turn this down and then have to say, well, I told you so, when a couple of months later down the line, a developer does buy it. You don't have to agree with me, that's fine. I will say a few more things about that I've left out of my conversation. The Jamestown Boulevard traffic study indicated that traffic growth was overestimated from the Biddle Farm project for the Campbell Station Kingston Pike intersection. They also overestimated traffic from multifamily based on the 2000 study, which was 57% higher than the 10th edition of the Traffic Generation Manual. There are studies that are showing that traffic generation is overestimated for mixed-use projects as well. So what we have is, yes, we have an issue. We're going to have an issue. We have a little bit of time to deal with it, to find out what are other ways we can solve our issues without destroying the heart of our town. And that's all I had.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank both of you. Okay, with discussion completed, I think I will go ahead and ask for a roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Pavlin.
Yes.
Alderman White.
No.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Okay. Let the record show this letter of intent to purchase property from McPhee Road has been approved as presented. Okay, next will be approval of professional services agreement with Cannon & Cannon, Inc. for a due diligence investigation of the property located off McPhee Road and adjacent to the railroad tracks in Farragut, Tennessee. Being a
Wait until they can leave.
Good evening.
Hold on a minute, Darrell. Let me read one more thing. I had to wait till the noise subsided. Being a portion of Knox County Tax Map 24-02 and 24-03. Now go ahead, please.
Sorry to interrupt there. With the purchase of any large piece of property, it's always very prudent to conduct a due diligence investigation. In your packets is an agreement with Cannon & Cannon to conduct that investigation. The scope of work includes an ALTA survey, topographic survey, preliminary natural resources assessment, threatened and endangered species review, Phase 1 environmental site assessment, and geotechnical exploration. So it's a pretty large scope of work. Does have a fee of $71,200, and staff recommends approval.
Move to approve.
Second. Okay, any
No, sir.
resident comment on this one? None, then we'll start out with Alderman White.
Well, the only comment I have, once again, it seems like we put the cart before the horse. I mean, we just agreed to sign a letter of intent to buy, and now we want to hire somebody for $71,000, tell us what we should have bought it and what's wrong with it. It just seemed backward to me. I know we have to do that at some point in time to make sure there's no environmental problems, and there are some problems on the property, like that big ravine in the property that cuts right through there. Something's got to be done with that. There's a water problem on the front. There's a big culvert there. But we got to know all that, and of course, realistically, David's already signed the thing before we ever voted, so actually, I guess the guy could have exercised his right and already asked for his money. But anyway, it just seems backwards to me. It seems like we should have tried to do all this first and then decided whether we wanted to buy it. But hey, that's my only comment.
Let me clarify something, just a second, David.
Go ahead.
The letter of intent, if you read the letter of intent, it has 2 paragraphs in it, I think, as I recall, that say that there will be negotiated a purchase agreement that deals with all the terms and conditions of the purchase. And while we're working on getting that agreement in place, then we have this time to do the due diligence. And if we find something during the period of doing the due diligence that makes us decide this is not a good piece of property for us, for whatever technical reasons may exist, have the survey done, have title searches done, all of these due diligence items are normally done during the period before you actually do the closing. And so this is not at all unusual for how a transaction like this normally happens. We have the 90 days. If we decide, for whatever reason, World War III breaks out, and we decide we don't want to buy it anymore, we just don't buy it, and there's no penalty. We get our earnest money back. So that's the way it's arranged in this letter of intent, and will be set out in the purchase agreement, is that we have the 90-day due diligence period, and then there's also a period we can extend that for another 30 days if we need to for some reason. So I just want to make clear that you have to do the due diligence, and you have to be able to rely on the due diligence to get out of the contract, or it doesn't have any meaning. We're not agreeing by this letter of intent to purchase the property. We're agreeing that we're going to work on a contract that's going to have a due diligence period, and if at any time during that 90-day period we decide we don't want to do it, we don't do it. And for all the people that want more public input, I guess we can have people come in here for the next 90 days before the closing, and if they think this is a bad idea, they can talk about it all they want. So there's going to be plenty of time for people who don't think this is a good idea. To me, what Ron Pinchot said is the exact right thing, and I've watched it myself. I've been here the whole time McPhee Park has been worked on. I've litigated over McPhee Park, and it takes a long time. This town has a way of deliberately taking wise steps and decisions, and not. Everybody thinks we're rushing into something. We're really not rushing into anything. We're going to have the land available that's worth the money we're paying for it, and if we want to sell it later on, we'll sell it later on if we don't want to use it. But the park or whatever's going to be built there is going to be hashed over, talked over, argued over for probably the next 20 years. If McPhee Park is any indication of how it works. And I think that's pretty much how it's always worked here, and I don't expect it to change. I mean, it's going to be a long process, and we're not buying into anything as we sit here today. We are indicating that these substantive terms are good terms with us. If everything works out during the due diligence, and we don't back out because of whatever reason we want to, then we'll go forward and make the purchase. So
I'll agree with you on one thing. I don't think we'll change either. I think we'll keep doing things just like we're doing, whatever the hell we want to do.
Well, we've done things pretty good, I'll have to say. When you look at the way the town's developed out, it's developed out pretty nicely, I'd say. Indulging me.
Okay, yes. Vice Mayor?
I have nothing.
Nothing. I have nothing as well. I think the explanation by Mr. Hale was quite sufficient to go ahead and close discussion and ask for a roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Poplin?
Yes.
Alderman White?
No.
Mayor Williams?
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show the agreement has been approved as requested. Next will be approval of PJ Parkinson's 5K run.
Yes, sir. We did have a request this week. They are requesting to change the date to October 8th instead of the 7th. So I wanted to make that note on here. This is similar to the one they had last year, and they'll provide portable restrooms, water stations. Volunteers will be responsible for defining the race route and cleaning up the area. Knox County Sheriff's Office will help provide traffic control, and a nurse will be present for any medical issues. Staff recommends approval of the event, subject to proper notification to any affected entities and the provision of adequate traffic control. And the motion is to approve the event application for October 8th involving the use of the town's public rights-of-ways and pedestrian facilities for the PJ Parkinson 5K race.
Move to approve.
Second.
Just any resident comments on
No,
this
sir.
one? None? Okay, then discussion. Vice Mayor?
Have nothing.
Alderman White?
None.
None, I have either. With discussion complete, I'll ask all in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Let the record show the request has been approved as stated. Next will be approval of Admiral's Run against leukemia.
This here on your screen is the route for this request, and it is for the morning of August 26th. The event is being presented to the board because of the use of the right-of-ways within Village Green subdivision. Staff recommends approval of the event subject to the proper notification of any affected entities. The motion is to approve the event application for August 26, 2023, involving the use of the town's right-of-ways and pedestrian facilities for the Admiral's Run against leukemia.
Move approve.
Second.
Okay. Any resident discussion on this one?
No, sir.
None? Okay. With discussion complete, I'll ask all in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes, let the record show that the request has been approved as presented. Approval of Town Farragut Committee charters, updates for the Arts and Beautification Committee, Education Relations Committee, Farragut Museum Committee, Parks and Athletics Council, Stormwater Advisory Committee, Tourism Visitor Advisory Committee, and Visual Resources Review Board.
Yes, sir. Kind of a summary of this is the term limits will be removed from the Arts and Beautification, Museum Committee, Parks and Athletics Council, and the Tourism Committee. There's a couple of minor grammatical changes in the Education Relations Committee. The Stormwater, that we're removing the specific month of their annual meeting. And the Tourism and Advisory Committee, we are changing it to 1 lodging representative and 5 at-large representatives. And the VRB will be removing the specific month for their annual meeting as well.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, great. Any resident comments on this one? None? Then I'll ask if in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Okay, let the record show that the updates have been approved as requested. Okay, next is approval of the FY24 Town of Farragut Committee appointments.
Yes, sir. We have Arts and Beautification Committee is Annie Dentman, Sue Ann Hansler, Bill Battle, and Linda McCarthy. Board of Zoning Appeals, Jeffrey Devlin. Museum Advisory Committee, Sue Ann Hansler, Dot LaMarche, William Rhodes, Henry Bird, Steve Wilson, and Eric Johnson will be a 1-year appointment. Farragut Tourism and Visitors Committee have Darrell Whitehead, Miriam McGill, Debbie Pinchuk, Ashley Lynch, Phil Dangle, and Kim Frasch. Parks and Athletics Council, Randy Armstrong, Mark Geller, Jeff Ulian, Diane Hall, Brian Walker, Jeannie Stowe, and Joe LaCroix will be a 1-year appointment for that term. Stormwater is Jennifer Mayfield, Violet Frudenberg, and Mr. He. The Visual Resources Review Board, Marty Lehman, Stephen Marlowe, Sue Stool, and Scott Russ.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion from residents on this one?
No, sir.
None? Then I will ask if in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I do have one thing to add to that. We had a retirement from our chair in the Planning Commission, and that leaves an opening, and it is my duty to replace that person, and that person will be Bob Cross, who lives in Farragut. He is the president of the Southeast and Midwest region of USI Consulting Group. He's got a BS in mathematics from University of Tennessee. He's got a master's in architectural science from Georgia State University. He is a member of the American Academy of Actuaries, which requires a whole list of things to even be considered. He's active in the Farragut community and is a current president of the Smithfield HOA. So if you happen to run into Bob Cross, please welcome him. He will be at our next meeting. Next will be the town administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things tonight. One is we had a great first event for the town last night, the Bluegrass Summer Solstice. Karen Tyndall, our tourism manager, put on a great event at the with weather coming in. It was supposed to be at Founders Park, and they moved it over to the community center and had a great crowd and first time event for us. So I appreciate Karen and her efforts and her team's efforts in that. Also on Monday, June 26th at 10 a.m., we're going to cut the ribbon on the Tenova Adaptive Multi-Use Trail at McPhee Park. So look forward to seeing the board there and anyone else who would like to come. But this is our newest trail that we've added to McPhee Park. It's adaptive, allows people of all abilities to be able to utilize about 1.5 miles of just great trail through the woods back there. So looking forward to getting that truly open and making sure the public knows it's back there. Every time I've been back there, I've been the only one in the park, so it's been great.
Back there.
Okay. We're going to take just a break here for just a minute, okay? No,
I get to.
no, that's fine. We take breaks. Okay, next, we're back in session, so we've had the town administrator's report. We'll move on to town attorney's report. If Tom has anything extra to
I have
offer.
a very long report that's, I'll save for another night.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have anyone signed up for?
We do. We have 3 speakers. The first is George Ellis at 12650 Brass Lantern.
Okay. Mr. Ellis, have you read the protocol? Come on up. I'll ask you when you get up here.
Okay.
You did read the protocol on the back of the agenda?
No, I did not.
Okay. I would suggest reading that, but go ahead. Well, just state your name and address.
Okay. It's George Ellis, 12650 Brass Lantern Lane. Quick preface, for the last 4 nights, and I'm dragging in McPhee Park again, I'm sorry, because I like to come up here and discuss McPhee Park about as much as you like to see me come up here and talk about it.
You're fine. Go ahead.
However, with this said, I'm going to preface a plea for help from the town. For the last 3 nights, I've called dispatch. Other people have called dispatch. Sometimes they come, sometimes they don't. They're probably doing other things, I'm sure. But imagine me trying to read a really good submarine novel in my bed about 11:30, and we start hearing these noises. There was pickleball being played under the lights of the pavilion. I mean, I keep telling them about kids today aren't as resourceful as they used to be. These kids are. I have to give them credit. So there's roll lines. Now they're playing pickleball under the pavilion, which tends to echo the little thwack-thwack bird that we hear now during the day. That's okay. But nocturnal thwack-thwack birds, I've never heard of them. Meanwhile, all this is going on. We have some really interesting reggae music coming out. And while that's going on, there's a basketball game going on. Oh. So needless to say, I told my wife, I've had enough of this, I really have. And she said, well, you're making a fashion risk. I said, I don't care, I'm going down there, I've got my pajamas on, I'm gonna talk to these kids. So by the time I got there, the police had arrived and they were sitting there. They did manage to turn the noise down. So I know Ron and the Parks and Recs are working really hard to get the gates and the fence in. We really appreciate that. But I'd like for you to hear what we had to put up with. And the sad thing is, we have a lot of pilots on the street, and when you fly an airplane, it's really good to have your act together so people don't yell and scream at you. Mm-hmm. And Joe couldn't be here tonight. He's coming in on the TVA jet, which he flies. And you just have to get some sleep. So anyway, I'll let you listen to this. Hopefully I can make this work. And this is just part of it. And I live from here to the Campbell Station, the Campbell Station light on the Kingston Pike.
Get closer to the microphone, please.
Well, I can't hear it. But anyway, I think you get the gist of this. What we're asking for in the time that we can get some gates to be put in, is it possible to have some kind of security patrol? I don't know if you've done this before, but at least have somebody that can patrol it from 8 o'clock when the park is supposed to be closed. And this is almost at midnight. This is really a stretch. But can we have patrolling done on a basis until the gates and the fence come in? And then hopefully, that's really all the town can do, and we understand that. But in the meantime, life is just becoming really, really miserable. And so we're really asking for your help and anything you can do. put a security guard out there to turn people away or whatever they've got to do legally, so we don't have to go down and confront. Because the more I think about it, I've got grandkids I'd like to see. I don't know who I'm going to confront when I say, look, hop it.
Yeah.
We've got people up here trying to sleep, and all you want to do is, you don't care. You're being very, very selfish. So any help is much appreciated. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Mr. Ellis.
Our next speaker is Mike Mitchell. Is he still here?
He's not here.
And our last one is Larry Doss.
Larry Doss, 12735 Evans Road, and I would just like to he recorded it. We did not. We live, and my kids live down on the road, and we hear that on a weekly basis. Am I correct? Do you hear that as often? It's weekends in particular, and I'm afraid that something needs to be done because the part that's going below that you just bought, you're going to have the same problem. But I'm really here about the issue of the lights. The lights that you have down there, I just found out they're 70-something feet high. And compared to the 28 feet in the ordinance, I read your opinion, very well written, about why the city can put that in and that they don't have to worry about it. But I disagree wholeheartedly. As I mentioned earlier, and then I thought about it in that first presentation on Article 414. If you read at the end of it, it says you can deny to any person within your jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. If you enforce that law anywhere in Farragut, you have to enforce it on yourself. You cannot exempt yourself from that. And I will be expecting an answer on this because I will pursue this matter. As far as the lights, they blind us at our house. I live right on the corner of McPhee and Evans is where I live. I'm up on top of the hill. When they turn that on, it looks like a big ball of flames coming down. And I really need that looked into, and I will stay in touch with you, David. I'm planning on pursuing this. And thank you for mentioning about the fact of the road going back to 160 acres. Thank you, sir. And thank you, gentlemen.
Can I quickly just address something that seems to have gotten lost in all of this? Because I finally wrote it down as succinctly as I could. Before June of 1999, there was no ordinance restricting pole height for outdoor lights. All it said, it was one line, and I can't even remember what the line was, but it had nothing to do with pole heights. In June 1999, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen approved Ordinance 99-16, which adopted a 28-foot maximum pole height for outdoor lights. At the time of the adoption of this pole height restriction, Mayor Bob Leonard Park already had 2 lighted softball fields, a lighted baseball field, a lighted rectangular field, and a lighted sand volleyball complex. All these light poles were taller than 28 feet. After the adoption of the pole height restriction, the board took no action to remove the existing lights in Mayor Bob Leonard Park. In fact, they went on to fund and install more lights on more fields in Mayor Bob Leonard Park with pole heights in excess of 28 feet. I asked the question, why would a board approve a restriction on a light pole height, then proceed to retain lights that exceed that height restriction and add more lights that exceed the pole height restriction? I'm thinking they adopted the ordinance. It did not apply to the public property, and recent changes to the outdoor site lighting ordinance is a long overdue clarification of an issue created in 1999. So
That's not, I'm sorry. That's not a clarification at all. That's a lesson in history that we usually get. The fact is, and you cannot deny it, is we violated the 28-foot ordinance that was in effect at the time the tennis court lights went up. Nobody's talking about the soccer field lights that were already up. We're talking about the ordinance that was violated at the time the tennis court lights went up.
Put more lights up after they adopted the ordinance. They put more lights up.
Well, that was their mistake.
But that's what we were.
The attorney has stated, and he said properly, We did not follow the ordinance, but he does not believe you violated it. That was his statement made in public right here on the record.
Still believe it.
You did not follow the ordinance. Plain and simple. You can
Not required
try to
to.
justify it any way you can, but you can't. The lights are too tall, they're illegal.
Alderman White, we have no choice here but go by our attorney. That's what he's here for. You're more than welcome to do what you need to do, sir, so thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, the time is approximately 8:12, and without objection, this meeting is adjourned.